and tabled amendments don't go on the website. So, I call Carmel Sepuloni, 5 minutes.
Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, we are supporting this bill, just like we supported the original bill, but I do need to state really clearly again that we did have some major reservations about the original bill. We supported the bill in the end because of the fact that it was agencies that would have access to the data. We were really concerned during the process that the public would have access to it. We weren't convinced entirely that it will have the impact that the government had set out, because the evidence that we had set before the Select Committee didn't really support to any great extent that it would have the impact, and we were really concerned about the amount of money that needs to go into this, Mr Speaker. It's $146 million over 10 years, and we knew we had different organisations who work with victims, who are people who are victims of sexual abuse, come through telling us that actually this money could be better invested in different places. But in the end, we got to a point where it is one measure. It is not necessarily the most effective measure. It is not necessarily one that we would have prioritised over anything else, but it was one measure that was set up to manage the risk posed by serious child sex offenders, Mr Speaker, and so we did support it. It's disappointing now to see, though, that here we are, less than 6 months later, back in the House, having to amend the bill because there were things that were overlooked, and now there are changes that have to be made. And going back to a point I made earlier in the night, one of the reasons that we have to question why it may have happened is because this bill, which now has been put forward by the Minister of Police, was originally actually put up by the Minister of Social Development and was sent to the Social Services Select Committee. And we questioned that decision at the time, Mr Speaker, and really had to question whether or not that was the place for this bill. And now to hear in the chair tonight the Minister of Police saying that she's taken over this bill because the sex offenders register sits better with her ministry makes us throw our hands up, because we tried to say that over a year ago when it was sent to the Social Development Select Committee. So have to wonder at what point they worked out that this was the better place for this bill to be and this issue to be situated, and also a little bit concerned that we hear nothing from the Minister for Social Development, who was responsible for seeing this bill through, and now here it is back. We would think that actually the Minister for Social Development would be standing up in this House and explaining to the House and to the public how we got to this point, why these things were overlooked in the process, and why less than 6 months after the bill was passed, we're back in the House having to amend it because some serious oversights have now been found. So, Mr Speaker, I don't have much to say about this bill, except for the fact that, yes, we will support it because it's important that the amendments are made, but the mistake shouldn't have been made in the first place, and the government is responsible for that because they made the decision to send it to a select committee that it wasn't suited to, Mr Speaker. We made that point right at the beginning of the process, and the government now acknowledged that, with Paula Bennett saying that this is better situated with her and her ministry. So, Mr Speaker, yes, we will be supporting it, but as I said, the government has made an absolute mess of this. It won't be the first thing that they've made a mess of, but they have made a mess of this. And, Mr Speaker, they need to be very careful in the future about which committees they send things through, and just making sure that the correct process is followed the whole way through, so that we don't end up having to waste the time of the House and the time of the public by having amendments made to bills within 6 months of them being passed. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
I call Ian McKell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.